Hello again, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. I just wanted to kind of wrap up on a couple of things from the readings and the discussions from last week. Just wanted to come to you with a quick video here. So I just want to say a couple of things about the Vershawn Young essay, the Should Writers Use Their Own English? Great discussion threads, by the way. Both of them, very good, very happy with what I was seeing there. Make sure that you go through, even after you've posted, make sure that you go back and kind of read through them, especially my posts, all the things that I'm posting there. Like, yes, I'm responding to the person who's posted it, but I'm also kind of like saying things there that I would normally say to the whole class. So I'm kind of operating as if like you're all going to see the stuff I'm writing there. So maybe make sure at the very least that you go back and at least look through my posts and read as many from your classmates as you can. Always good to get other people's opinions and stuff and get that kind of more being in a class feel. But yeah, make sure you go back and read mine as well. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to do here, I wanted to point to what I think in this essay is kind of like his thesis. So this is on the second page, page 111. At the bottom of the second paragraph, he says, "And that's my exact argument, that we all should know everybody's dialect, at least as many as we can, and be open to the mix of them in oral and written communication." He's not saying that everyone should only speak a certain dialect. Like he's not saying that everyone should talk the way he talks or the way that he writes in this essay, right? That's not what he's trying to say. He's just basically, it's kind of a call for people to be more open-minded. And I think this makes sense if we think about it in the context of most of the English classes that we've taken, where what percentage of the time, like fucking like 80% of the time, like in English classes, especially like in high school and earlier, so much of it is just, okay, here's the noun, adjective, pronoun, predicate, independent clause. Like it was just like drilling this kind of like grammar information into us, right? And just being like, here's all the rules, and the way that you be a good writer is you follow all these rules. So I think in that context, what he's saying makes a lot of sense about just being more open to people speaking conversationally. So I just wanted to point out there that I think is kind of his main point. I saw a lot of people posting like that if we were more open to dialect, like if we didn't insist on standard English, that it would then be difficult for people to understand each other. And obviously, like there's a grain of truth to that. Like if you speak a totally different dialect, you might have to adjust to what the other person's saying, or there might be some words you don't know or whatever. But I don't think, like, no one ever speaks in 100% dialect, Like, even his essay, like, the sentence I just read that I said was his thesis, it's pretty much written entirely in standard English, right? Like, that sentence does not really have any elements of dialect in it at all. And there's other sentences in here like that, too. Like, no one ever speaks 100% dialect. His point is that whenever we're speaking, whenever we're writing, we're usually mixing, 2, 3, 5, 7 different dialects together, and that's how we get the kind of language that we use every day. And if you think about this when you talk, like, you're going to be using like some words that are standard, some words that are unique maybe to your culture or something, and then some words that are more like, text message or like internet dialect. So he's just looking at how we like combine all these things, and on the idea of like, oh, well, how would we be able to understand each other? It's kind of like, if you've ever watched like an English TV show or a movie that was made in England, and it's like, yeah, there's the accent. Yeah, there's some words we might not know, right? When they say fish and chips, maybe you might think they mean chips, but they mean French fries or whatever, right? Or they say loo for the bathroom and things like that. But we can still watch those shows, right? Like you don't watch, whatever, like Doctor Who, or like the British Office or something. Like it's not totally incomprehensible to us. Like we can figure out what's going on, and I think that's what Young is kind of asking for. That we just be willing to like accept other things, Or similarly, if you watch the show that had like a lot of Southern dialect, like you could figure it out with the context and things. So I think that's what he's kind of asking for there. Okay, one other thing. Well, one point that always comes up with this essay is the idea of like professionalism, right? Like, you know, there's this idea that it's not professional if we don't speak standard English, right? That standard English is the only one that sounds professional. And obviously, there's a point here because, like all of you, if I was going to a job interview tomorrow, I would probably try to speak standard English in that job interview, right? Because we know that that's something people look for, and to get ahead in the world, maybe standard English can help us with that, right? On a practical level, obviously, I think that's true. But we can also ask like why that's true or how that became true. And another big point that I would want to make here is that what is counted as professional changes over time, right? I always think about this with like tattoos. Like in the 80s or earlier than that, having tattoos was considered like crazy and like, oh wow, you have a tattoo, like must be nice not to need a job. Like that was kind of the approach. It was like, oh, you must be some hippie or a biker or something. You'll never get a job with a tattoo. But I think that's really changed a lot. Like maybe we still have a little bit of that. But like, my sister works in an office doing sales and she has a tattoo. I know other professors who have tattoos, right? So like that is kind of not viewed as unprofessional as it is now. Another one that he mentions in the essay that you might have seen has to do with hairstyles, specifically like certain like braided or like natural hairstyles, like for people of color and stuff. And he says how like that used to be seen as really unprofessional, right? And it was always kind of like a racial bias sort of thing for that to be viewed as unprofessional. And again, maybe some of that still sticks around today, but it's definitely changed a lot over time. It's not considered unprofessional in the way that it once was. Again, there's plenty of professors, who wear their hair that way and stuff. So these things do change. I think that's an important point. That what's considered appropriate, professional, academic, this stuff does change over time. So it's not impossible that other kind of dialects could at some point in the future be considered professional. What would that take? I don't know. Younger people getting into power and having different ideas about it. I don't know, something like that. Who knows? But yeah, saying that like, oh well, it's unprofessional. To me, that's not really a way of refuting Young's argument. I think that just means that like, well, maybe we should change what we think of as professional. Okay. Last thing I want to say here. So the real thing that I want us to to take away from this essay is, well, one, I kind of wanted to just like set the tone for the course. I always like to do this in the first class of like all the courses I teach. Because I just want to set the tone that this is not like going to be a straight up grammar class, right? That even though this is an English class, we're not going to be doing worksheets on predicates and nouns and stuff like that. So I want you to have that approach. I want you to have like maybe a little more relaxed approach in terms of writing, because ultimately it's about priorities. One of the big things I'm going to try to emphasize is kind of like getting our priorities straight when it comes to writing. Like I think for a lot of us, we've taken like grammar and commas and stuff to be like the number one thing that we have to work on to become a better writer. But really, I think if we make this list, I think grammar and stuff is much lower. I think, thesis, organization, evidence, using quotes, all intro, conclusion. I think all of that stuff is a lot higher on our list of priorities, or it should be. So I also like to look at this essay to kind of get us to maybe not look at grammar as the number one thing that makes someone a good writer. And I think that approach will help us a lot going through the semester. Okay, that's all I want to say now. Of course, this took me longer than I wanted it to. All right, I'll talk to you again soon.